Hi, everybody. This is Robert Linkle, and this is a live edition of Aging with Strength. And today is kind of a special session for you. It won't be super long. Over the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I've had multiple people, other trainers, other coaches, ask me about the equipment that I have and about the selections that we've made to kind of develop the clientele that we have and work with the clients that we have. And I kind of find myself saying the same things over and over again. So I wanted to throw down a video, put it into one of the webcasts, and kind of showcase some of this stuff to everybody over the next, 5 or 10 minutes or so. We do have a major storm kind of coming into our area, so it's super dark outside. So I'm as illuminated as I can get us. But please know that the focus of what we're going to be addressing today, I have no affiliation to any of these pieces of equipment other than Alpha Strong, which is a sandbag company here in Chico. They're the ones that we partner with through all of the campfire survivors that are up in Paradise. So they're friends of ours, they're buddies of ours, and we always loved their sandbags for almost 10 years now. So everybody else, this is just stuff that I use. I love their product, but I have no affiliation to them. I'm not plugging anybody for any financial means on our own. So I want everybody to know that right from the get-go. So one of the first ones that I want to start with, it's been fairly new to us the last 2 months. They're called Angles 90. And these handles, a really good friend of mine, Tony Taylor, who's a personal trainer out in England, he sent me a text one day. He said, "Hey, check these handles out. Tell me what you think." And I saw the picture and I said, "Oh, those look interesting." I didn't really think much of it after that. And I have so many clients that have arthritic issues or osteoporosis or some kind of issues, osteoarthritis in their hands, that a lot of the handled exercises that we were doing were really starting to bother them. So I ordered a set of these, and I can't tell you enough how much my clients love them. If you follow us on Facebook, you see my clients I'll put up a video about cable pulley rows and the benefit of, and the comments are like, "I love those handles." It's not even about the movement anymore. It's about how comfortable these handles are. So I can't say enough about how great this company is and how ergonomic these handles are. They've made things so much better and so much more efficient specifically for my clientele. When you watch their videos online and such, it's showing pull-ups and all this, and I know there's a demographic for that. But for the older populations, this is huge. So it's got a couple different angles on it that you can go, but we consider and coach our clients to put the logo in their hand, in the palm. That curvature fits really nice and smooth into the round part of their hand. Their middle finger goes through the strap there, and they get a nice balanced grip. So it's a really comfortable device. I can't say enough about how much we like those. So I checked those out. The Inertial Wave, this is another one we've had almost a year of work with now. So I brought home, this is, at our facility, our logo is, our colors are blue and white. And then we got pink tubes because my daughter and my wife really wanted pink ones for our home gym. Well, the material of these is so nice, and I think they're a newer generation of tube, that I brought them down to the gym one day because we needed a couple more, and our clients love them. They definitely feel a little bit firmer, I know, because they're new, but the product itself is very, very durable. Basically, there's an anchor strap you can loop around whatever it is, a fence post, a squat rack post. We hook them onto our med ball return. I've hooked them onto the back of my truck here. So wherever you're training at, you have a pretty good opportunity to anchor these to anything. We anchor them to trees in our front yard. So we're able to use these. Most of the demos, you see the handle is just like a little knob stuck inside one of these really big resistant bands, and we absolutely love them. So one of the things we see, especially online with what Inertial Wave produces, they always have two bands for the most part, and they do a lot of core work, and they do a lot of dynamic stuff where they're jumping and they're dynamic and they're up and over boxes, and athletically, all that's fantastic. When we're looking at our average client, 63 years old, where is this going to fit in? And one of the things that I really focused on, and I know this is going to sound so simple, and it's going to be like, this is really what you do for a living. It comes down to this, is like when someone says, what are the things I really need to work on? Shoulder retraction and basically posterior body or back, the posterior chain between the shoulder blades, rhomboid, posterior delt, lat. Those areas need to be addressed drastically. And if I only see a client 2 or 3 times a week for an hour, we're going to address that a lot. So I need, basically, I call it shoulder retraction strength. Okay. The second part of that is glute and hip development and teaching someone how to hinge correctly. So if I can basically teach shoulder retraction and hinging ability and build strength in those two areas, I feel like I can get 70 to 80% of my clients much more improved, much more comfortable, etc. So when we're using the ropes, battling ropes or whatever ropes you use, they're great when they're fresh, and when people start to get tired, the weight starts to kind of dominate and pull you down. The shoulders start to round. There's really nothing to pull back against because the weight has now won. The really nice part about the inertial wave is they don't weigh a lot. They don't weigh a lot, but there's a constant pull forward from the band that they have to retract against. So I get the cardiovascular component of the ropes, of having something that's power based, but not a lot of impact or minimal impact. But it's addressing one of the biggest issues, that shoulder blade retraction strength there. And I'm not jacking up their bodies with demand of that heavy load from the rope. So it was kind of a win-win situation. I was actually at a point where I was going to go out and buy like rock climbing rope and start weaving it together to create a lighter rope, a really light fabric rope. And again, another acquaintance of mine, Tim Vegan up in Washington, sent me a link and said, hey, I found these tubes. Take a look. What do you think? I ordered up a pair. I loved them. We ordered 3 more pair, and now we use them almost daily with what we do. So those are fantastic. The glute loop and the hip thrust bench. So we have a hip thruster. This is Brett Contreras' product. We have a hip thruster. We don't have a lot of clients that hip thrust for load. So we're not loading barbells on the hip thrust. We do glute bridges. We glute bridge heavily. A lot of our clients can glute bridge hundreds of pounds. But as far as the hip thrust goes, where your shoulders are elevated, 2 or 3 of my clients, mostly are performance-based clients that do that. So what do we use the hip thrust bench for? We use the progressive resistance, the bands on there, and I'll kind of jump ahead to my bands. So I like Rogue. Perform Better is good too. We have both, just their regular old super bands, their traditional super bands. And I've got hundreds. We have so many of them in the gym. We use those a lot. We use them for a lot of our anchor pulleys. Anything where the band is not physically touching our skin, we use those rubber bands. Anything where the band is touching our skin, we use Nick Tuminello's the NT bands. And we love that product as well. We were using the rubber bands for some of the reverse walks, for our push-ups, our loaded progressive push-ups, a lot of those, loaded progressive bench press and such. And the rubber just kind of digs into you. Our squat jumps, some of the things, before we got some of the belts, we would have the rubber band around the waist. So the rubber bands are great for us to hook like the Angle 90s too. And then we will anchor that, and I'll talk about my anchor strap here in just a second. We'll anchor that to whatever we can, a post or a sled or whatever's heavy enough. And we'll do our pull starts or whatever exercise we're doing with the bands that day. But if the band is touching our skin, we will use the NT bands. So back to the hip thruster, we will use those rubber bands for the most part, and on occasion the NT bands onto that, over the hips, and use progressive hip thrust. A lot of our clients have knee replacements, hip replacements, back injuries, so we need to keep the load challenging, but at the point of most vulnerability is the term that I like to use. That means when you're in your deepest flexion, I need the load to go a little bit lighter. And then when I get to my strongest or my most stable position, I need it to get a little heavier. And that's the beauty of the band. If I have a 135-pound bar on me, it's always 135 pounds. But if I put an 80-pound band on, at the bottom, it's 0 or next to 0. And then as I hip thrust up, it'll be 80 pounds at its maximum tension. So I get the tension and the progression that I need into safer positions. And as we get more vulnerable, it gets a little lighter, a little bit easier. So I really like to use those. Rogue is nothing against the Perform Better bands. I've used both for a long time. I found the Rogue bands extremely durable for, especially their big, thick ones for hip thrusting. And then the Perform Better bands have worked really well for our mini bands that we use around our ankles and our hips for all of our bridging, the durability of those. And mind you, when you get those, if you're not working with kids, get the extra larges. It's an extra 4 inches. It doesn't seem like it should be that big of a difference, but when you have larger people trying to get their feet in and out of them and such, the XL bands are much, much better in my opinion. There are other brands out there, other companies out there. I find these ones, and they're with warranties and such. I like to buy products from companies that I believe in, and products that are tested and known. And the bands, there's so many competitors out there. Until I find something that is drastically better, I'm loyal to the brand that I originally started with. And I do have some good friends at work. And a lot of these businesses, I get to know these folks really well, and I believe in their product, or else I wouldn't continue to use them. The anchor straps, if you notice some of the stuff that we put up, we use carabiners often. Carabiner itself, I get from REI. I know some equipment companies sell their own carabiners. It's not that I don't trust them, but a company that I know builds carabiners to save people's lives and for their lives depending on to be dangling off of them, that's the carabiner that I want. Even though my clients aren't dangling off of this or taking falls, it's still going to be holding load or holding their body weight or holding the tension of a band that's opposite their face while they're doing a face pull to it or something along those lines. When you take a rubber band and rubber band it to a post, to a squat rack, to whatever you're doing it to, the rubber and the metal do wear eventually. You'll eventually wear them down. So we got these Eclipse Fitness. I just found these on Amazon. I know nothing about these guys other than their anchor straps are awesome. So they're very long. I think they're 14 inches long, and you can loop them around, a post and cinch them through, and they'll hook onto a squat rack. Where's my anchor? There we go. We'll go through the squat rack or whatever you're hooking it to, and then we will click a carabiner onto that and then hook the band onto that. So now I have a smooth carabiner onto a smooth rubber band, and that produces a whole lot less wear and tear. We've also done this without the carabiner before and just put the rubber band straight onto this guy. It's really hard to get off. They cinch down and they knot, and the rubber does rub on the other rubber on itself. So it starts to wear down there as well. So I would take a look at this. Again, I don't know a website. I'm assuming it's eclipsefitness.com. I don't know. I just found them on Amazon. I bought, 8 or 10 of them, and I love them. They're fantastic. All right, what else? Examples that I don't have with me. Spud Incorporated. I just looked on their website a couple days ago, and they've got all kinds of stuff. The two things that I really like most about theirs is their indoor, they call it the Magic Carpet. It's a sled that works indoors, and it's like a big, thick Kevlar blanket, basically, that you can hook, I think it's like 280 or 300 pounds of plates onto it and drag it across your rubber floor, and it won't tear up your flooring. We've used ours hundreds of times in the exact same location, and we have little tiny drag lines that just show the direction, but they haven't actually dug down into the flooring. And I kept thinking we're going to have to replace this someday the way it looks, and it's really holding strong. So I love that product. If you're in any kind of environment where going outside every day is not an option for you, I suggest that. And then their pulley system. I originally bought their pulley system. I'm going to rat on myself here. And just in case, Spud, you are listening, which I doubt you are, I tried to cheat on you, and I went to somebody else, and I learned better, and I apologize. And now I'm back because your product's awesome. So I originally bought one. And I thought I screwed this product up because as we were using it, I had to have done something wrong is what I thought. Because as you use it, the cable pulley, the pulley works great, but the cable itself started to fray. And it was catching on shirts. It was cutting people's hands. It tore up my hands every time I tried to set it up. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, I either did something wrong to this product or it got damaged in shipping or something. I don't know what the deal is. And so I threw them away, and I said, forget it. I'm going to go build my own. So I went to Ace Hardware, and I bought pulleys, and I bought cables, and I tried to put the whole thing together, and it was awful. And things were not always greener on the other side. So that was maybe a year that we went where I was using this other crap one that I built. And then I went back to Spud, and I said, even if I would use this for a year and it wears out and I have to throw it away and keep buying them, I'm going to keep doing that. So that's how much I love the product, and the cheap one that I built is crap. So I order one, I get it in the mail, and the cable now has this really dark, hard plastic coating over it, which is like exactly solves my problem, right? So without knowing it, they improved their product, and I absolutely love it. So we have 2 of them. We use them weekly. Our clients love them. They're counterweights. I'm a big proponent of not sitting down when you train. So when you get the counterweight, we call them inertial leans. When you're leaning your inertia against something to counterweight it, there's a lot of core strength developed there. So though we will be kneeling, half kneeling, seated onto a bench, we're counterweighting that pulley. They're very mobile. They're easy to set up. So I think those are great. And then my last suggestion, the cool part basically, before I do this last one, the cool part about all of this, I forgot to talk about the hip thrust bench. So I talked about the hip thruster. The hip thrust bench, if you guys haven't seen this, it's kind of a newer product Brett has out. And it's like a plyo box, but it's a shorter, and it's kind of like a quadruped. I don't know what 2 angles and 2 sides are even, one's not, and one's big. I don't know. I got to go back to my angles. It's kind of like a plyo box, but it can stack a ton of weight on there. You can put your shoulders on it. You can put your feet on it. We bench press on it. We step up on it. We do hip thrust. We do glute bridges. We do loaded glute bridges. It's a great product. So we have one of those here. The only reason I remember to kind of go through it is I'm going through my list of basically everything we have in our home gym, minus the Spud pulley, everything else we have here. And the reason I want to kind of share all that stuff is these are things that if someone said like, hey, I'm going to hire you to come to my house to train, and you had somewhere to anchor things, basically all the stuff would be things that I would want to put in my car and like take with me, you know. I'm not a traveling trainer. I'm not suggesting people should do that. I prefer to have a location where people come to you. I think in this day and age, it's a little dangerous to be going into people's homes. When I mean dangerous is legally, not that you're going to get mugged going into someone's house, but the legality of being able to safely account for all the equipment and the environment that you're in and all that. I think it's better to control your own space. So there's my disclaimer. The last one on this is the Thompson Fat Bell. Now I know there's been some debate on, I think it's Sornex had one and Thompson Fat Bells have one, and I don't know where any of that is or have an opinion on any of that matter. But I order my equipment from Rogue, and I think Rogue is a very good product, and they have great business practices, and I really like them. So I haven't had a whole lot of experience ordering from Sornex, even though Bert and I threw the hammer against each other a few times in college. I think he's a great guy, great speaker, and great for our industry. But I ordered the Thompson Fat Bells, and with the original idea of our older adults, the limitations, the issues that we have at the wrist, at the elbow, in the hand are very similar to the ideas of what and why we use hex bars for the hip, the back, and the knee. When you hold a barbell or a kettlebell in front of you, you're counterweighting that weight to the opposite side of your body. So if I hold a kettlebell in front of me in a goblet, my lower lumbar back is counterweighting that. If I hold a barbell in front of me, my upper thoracic spine is counterweighting that. When you're inside a hex bar, ideally that is spread out. There's not one opposite counter because you are in the center of the weight, right? So that's why we call it center mass training. So with the Thompson Fat Bell, we're creating a center mass for the hand. So if you look at a lot of the arthritic and wrist injuries, they're from forward flexion extension injuries. It's from typing and, you know, punching and anything else that we do that's forward flexion lifting, football players, jamming, you know, everything that we do is kind of in a forward flexion extension position. Yet the dumbbells that we train with are laterally supported on either side. So it would make sense that the wrist would build more strength and the hand would develop more strength, equally balancing weight and working with weight that's center massed around it, rather than stabilizing on either lateral side, but all the issues exist in the front and the back. So it may seem minimal, like when you sit there and think about it, like what a big deal. It's 30 pounds, it's 30 pounds. When you do this over and over and over and over again, you know, I have clients that have blown out discs in their back that have never lifted anything heavy in their life because they did a whole bunch of little light bendovers wrong. All of these little tiny reps can equal up and add up to injury. So if I had the opportunity to go back and knowing what I know now about this and center mass training where I want, I would pretty much never barbell, back squat, or deadlift a client again. We would rack pull and we would hex bar deadlift like crazy. Unless one of my clients wanted to be a power lifter and the sport required the barbell, that's it. Really none of our clients do barbell lifts now. We do almost all independent unilateral stuff for upper body, lower body, and then any other deadlifts that we do, we rack pull or we hex bar. So knowing that, where my mindset is for the hips, the back, and the knee, I feel like this now translates into the wrist, the elbow, and the rest of the hand. And ideally, instead of removing dumbbells from our facility, we're adding more fat bells. And I think we've got 25 of them now or so, to encourage our clients to utilize those, especially the older adults that have the wrist and hand and elbow injuries. Because I feel like this is kind of the new direction that things are going to go for us. It's, you know, I get a lot of trainers that are like, I don't want to admit that we were doing things wrong. I used to do sit-ups with my clients. We used to do leg lifts and Russian twists, and we used to throw med balls from the floor. And I used to back squat with my head vertical. And I used to do all these things that we now know better. So in my opinion, a good professional learns from their mistakes and they make those changes. And so clients go, well, you used to have me foam roll in my T-band 2 years ago. Well, that was 2 years ago. I've learned better now, right? Now I know what we need to address. Now I know. And this is going to continue to happen. 2 years from now, I could have this conversation again about how something I've discussed today is not the best way to do it and then we should change it. That's how things evolve and how we get better. So to look at anything now and be like, oh man, I shouldn't have, I have regret that I had you do deadlifts 6 years ago. I didn't know any better then, but I do now. So I want to be on the forefront of those things as I move forward. And I encourage other professionals to do the same, to be on the forefront of this, to do your research, to utilize your products. I've used 4 or 5 different handles prior to finding these. I've looked at different battling ropes, even light ropes, even different fabric ropes, and couldn't find anything that compares to the inertial wave of what I'm trying to accomplish. I need that shoulder blade retraction, not just weight pulling me forward, right? So this, collection of equipment I feel like is pretty valuable for my demographic, my clients, and my environment. I wanted to share it with you. Everybody's different. We all have different philosophies. We're all working with different people. So it's not that anything that I said is good or better or worse than anything else. This is just my opinion, the stuff that I use. I hope you find some good value in it. And when I had a couple of stats here, I always like to leave you with some stats. When I look at how many times we grab something in a workout and the ergonomics of the handle or the pulley or whatever it is that we're using, 22% of the United States population has some type of upper body arthritis. That's 54 million people. And of that, 33 million have it in their hands, either arthritis or osteoarthritis in the hands or wrist. So that's a lot of people that are affected or going to be affected with these injuries or with this limitation. And if we continue to look at, what little things can we do in the long run to address that, I think finding more ergonomic handles and things that are more appropriate for us to, allow freedom of the hand to rotate rather than being stuck in one plane, I think those kinds of things are going to benefit our clients quite a bit. All right, enough for me. 20 minutes into my 5-minute talk. You guys know I'm very long-winded. I hope you enjoyed this today. Thank you for being on here. Aging with Strength. This is episode number 9. I've titled it Arthritis, Equipment, and Review for Training the Older Adult. If you have any other questions, comment below. Please share. Please check out our YouTube page as well. It's just my name. YouTube, search for me, Robert Linkle. You'll find a lot of our other videos there. And our 2019 webinar series for training the older adult starts this coming Wednesday. So still plenty of time to hop in on that. It's never too late. We record everything. We can always ship it out to you later if you choose to join us later. And it is CEU approved with the NSCA. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Go Chicago Bears. Hopefully we'll get a big win on Sunday. And we'll talk to you all later. Take care.